So for quite a long time I had the idea to talk about German UX writing on this channel because, in case you didn't know, I am German. Then I asked you if you cared and you said, yes, please do so, but please do it in English so we can all follow. So this is what we're gonna do today. I will tell you a little bit about what makes German UX writing special, and I will also tell you about my personal experience with the German UX writing community and the digital creative community here in Germany. So if you're ready to do that, let's go. Hi, my name is Kat and I teach people about writing in tech, and on this channel you will find everything that you need to know, especially about UX writing. So if you want to know more about all of that, make sure you hit subscribe and ring the bell. So today I want to dedicate some time to my native language, the German language, which I love and cherish, even though you don't see me talking about German UX writing on here a lot, but actually not at all. But I do love the German language, and I also work with German UX copy in my day job. And I also think it's pretty cool if we as a non-native English speaking UX writers share more about UX writing in our native language. So if you are Greek or Indian or Spanish or Chinese and you are a UX writer, this is your sign to talk about UX writing in your native language as well, if you like. But today we don't talk about Greek, Indian, Spanish, Chinese UX writing, we talk about German UX writing. And more specifically, as I said, I want to talk about the linguistic aspects of it, and I also want to talk about my experience with the German-speaking UX writing community and the current state of the discipline of UX writing in Germany. And if you are German and you want to watch this video in German, it is also available in German on my channel if you like. I published it together with this video on this channel. But if you want to stick with this video right here, let's proceed and let's start with what makes German UX writing so special, especially compared to English UX writing, which is like our common ground here. Now, as you may know, many people say that German is quite difficult to learn. It is pretty complex, at least more complex than the English language. You know, we have inflected subjects and predicates, so our verbs and our nouns come in many different forms. We have many grammatical cases, we have wild tense constructions, so a lot of complicated stuff, which always makes me so grateful that I was socialized with this language and didn't have to learn it as a foreign language. Even though, of course, there is Farsi, there is Hindi, there is the Finnish language, there is the beautiful Arabic language, and compared to those, German is probably not the toughest language to learn, but it has some traits that are specifically relevant for UX writing that may give us a hard time. And the first thing is the length of our language. Both the length of our words and the length of our sentence constructions are comparatively huge. So if you write UX copy in your product in multiple languages, and German is one of them, you always have to check and test whether or not your UI elements leave enough room for the German version of your UX copy. And if the German version of your UX copy fits in your UI design space-wise, your English, Spanish, Italian copy will probably fit too, okay? Don't need to worry about that. Secondly, we have formal and informal user addressing. When we directly address the user in an informal way, we say du, and when addressing the user in a formal way, we say Sie in German. The latter is formal, polite. We mainly use it when we address adult strangers. The Sie addressing is a very important part of our linguistic culture, just like it is, for example, in the Spanish or the French language. Same thing. Du is the informal user addressing. We use it, for example, to address children. Young adults use it to address each other, even when they're strangers, and adults use it in informal settings, like when you're in a bar or in a sports club or whatever. Now, even the Germans themselves struggle with choosing the right form of addressing other people, but in UX writing, this is particularly difficult, especially when a brand addresses a broad target audience. For example, supermarkets or TV channels or public broadcasters have this problem. Large car brands have this problem. And sometimes brands want to appear younger and fresher and more modern and up to date and decide to trade the Sie user addressing, the formal one, for the Du addressing, the informal one. But that is kind of risky because they think, hey, informal user addressing is what will make our brand appear youthful and cool. When in reality, guess what? Many younger adult customers may also feel offended by being addressed informally. I've personally worked with 2 brands that went from formal to informal user addressing, and trust me, the number of hate-filled customer complaints was high. And speaking of complaints, it gets even trickier when it comes to gendered language. Now in German we have gendered nouns. So if you talk about a male doctor, it's der Arzt. If you talk about a female doctor, it's die Ärztin. The plural form of Arzt is die Ärzte, and the plural form of Ärztin is die Ärztinnen. So far, so beautiful, right? Now, the traditional and until now most widespread way to talk about a group of both male and female doctors is to say die Ärzte, so the plural form of the male noun. This is also how it is done in Spanish, for example. Add one male to the group and the plural form becomes male. Now, there has been a movement that aims at making the German language more gender inclusive by promoting gender inclusive language to make it clear that we talk about either a female or a male person, or we talk about a group of both genders. The gender inclusive plural noun in our example would be die Ärztinnen. Now in Germany you will probably always find people who think that this is better than the generic masculine form and people who think that this is worse. And to be honest, there has been a huge political discussion about this in Germany, and it's probably worth a video of its own, but you can only imagine what that means for UX writing. So do we use gendered language or not? Do we offend people by using it or by not using it? And if we use it, words become even longer and even more complex, which is a problem for the readability and the scannability of our UX copy and may even affect the overall look and feel of our interface design. While on the other hand, we may offend users by not using it, of course. So good luck for trying to make the right decision here. And finally, we have what I would call the language culture, the German language culture, especially in the public service sector, but also in corporate Germany. The language is rather formal and constructed, too factual, too technical, too uptight, too official, too unnatural, and non-intuitive. And if we try to communicate more casually, on an official website or in a company app, it always sounds kind of forced and unnatural, wanna be young, wanna be cool. So this problem is definitely part of the German language culture, and with that, a problem for German UX writing. Now, these are just some attributes that you deal with when writing UX copy in German. And yes, sometimes that makes things a bit difficult, but the German language also has some great, amazing traits that make UX writing really, really fun. For example, I just love that the German language contains so many great idioms and metaphors. And if you know this TikToker right here, you know what I'm talking about. It's also why the German language is so wonderfully suited for poetry and literature. And that's also why you don't need these oops and woes in German UX writing, because we have other, much more delicate, fine art opportunities to play with language and insert some tone and voice details. And with the complexity of the language, there also comes a lot of flexibility in how we can shape the tonality of our UX copy. Like, the range of voice and tone variations is just so much wider than in English UX copy, I think. For example, by using formal user addressing, we can create a stronger sense of exclusivity and elegance. By using gendered language, we can reach a much more progressive tone, right? So these kinds of shades that otherwise make German complex and hard to learn are actually some sugar and spice in our UX writing. This is just to give you an idea of what is special about German UX writing. And with that, we just briefly scratched the surface, okay? But maybe this has already motivated you to dive a little deeper into the beauty of our language, because German indeed is a very beautiful language. So this is it for the first part, but I wanted to discuss a second point with you, which is the current state of the discipline of UX writing in Germany. And please note, of course, everything I say here is just based on my personal experiences, my impression, my thoughts. Now, first of all, quite a bit has happened in the German UX writing community in recent years. For example, the number of job postings is rising. Many companies hire UX writers. I see a lot of posts by German UX writers popping up on LinkedIn. There are also some agencies that specialize in UX writing. So far, so good. But I also see a lot of things going wrong with UX writing in Germany, which is also why I am so actively participating in the international UX writing community and not at all in the German UX writing community. And the biggest problem for me is one that isn't even happening within the German UX writing community, but outside of it. And it's something that also happened with international UX writing, and that is that UX writing is used as a buzzword that people who actually have no idea about it try to exploit. So I see a lot of German marketing blogs suddenly mentioning UX writing and completely misrepresenting it, sometimes just spreading false information. I also see that some German UX workshop providers simply copy the UX Writing Hub's courses or even my UX writing courses and translate them into German. And then these courses are taught by someone who has absolutely no UX writing experience. Of course, that's not only very illegal, and I'm obviously taking action against it, and hopefully the UX Writing Hub does too, but it also bears the risk that UX writing in Germany is not taught properly. But often, random people just pull out knowledge of international UX writing courses or ChatGPT and try to make money with it because they have heard somewhere that UX writing is the next big thing. Of course, this is not surprising. As I said, it was like this in the early days in English-speaking UX writing as well, and it only makes sense because UX writing in the German-speaking market is not yet as well established as, for example, in the US. In the US, we have these big UX-driven tech companies like Google, Apple, and Netflix, which have pushed all UX disciplines for decades. So it only makes sense that the international English-speaking part of UX writing is further ahead, has better resources and more advanced discussions. However, looking at the way UX writing is discussed in Germany sometimes is quite exhausting and frustrating. Not only because a lot of content is just partially or fully copied from English-speaking experts without analyzing or questioning the original source, it's also because I sometimes feel like because of that, we don't move forward, not an inch. I mean, it's really the year 2024, and for German UX writing, we are still stuck on level, hey, UX writing is important for your app and website. And what is UX writing? It's obvious that international UX writing is further ahead. I give you that. But really, that knowledge was relevant 10 years ago. And that is also true for Germany. And when I read German blog posts or LinkedIn posts about UX writing, they usually remain on this level and only marginally touch on aspects like inclusion, accessibility, that's it. But the do's and don'ts of German UX writing, the specific struggles, the strengths of the German language in UX writing, positive and negative examples, the challenges of the German UX writing job market, I never ever read about anything deeply substantial about these things. And because we often discuss UX writing on a very superficial level, the discussions with other creatives or client companies or managements are also very often uninformed and difficult. Once a creative director of an advertising agency even stepped up to me, actually a very seasoned creative director, stepped up to me and told me, UX writing is just a new buzzword for copywriting. We don't need another new trend discipline. And I want to be honest with you, as I'm getting older, I feel like I don't really have the patience to deal with this kind of stuff anymore, okay? It's more like, okay, bro, if that is what you think, I recommend reading a book on the subject. There are plenty of them. Read a book on the subject. Or if you speak English, come to my channel and I will teach you. And this is by far not the only experience of that kind that I had. And to be honest, experiences like this are one of the reasons why I kind of withdrew from the German UX and digital community. At some point, I just thought, hey, I can't take this anymore, right? I just wanted to do my job and not have these constant existential discussions. I just didn't want to be a contact person for German UX writing anymore. And that is why I decided to rather participate in the international community, where the discourse, in my opinion, is not only much further ahead, but people are also more open-minded and even more importantly, more warm-hearted. So that's something that strikes me quite negatively in the German creative, digital and marketing scene. But that doesn't mean that there aren't really great people. Especially in the very narrow and small UX writing community, you will find some really amazing people in Germany like Katrin Süterlin, Barbara Kofler, two amazing UX writers. There are also professionals from neighboring disciplines like Bettina Mikhail, who is an expert in the field of plain language and a person that I have learned a lot from personally. There are also agencies like QVP that specialize in writing in tech and and in UX writing in particular. I have worked with them for a couple of months now for different projects, and I can confirm their team has amazing expertise in the field. So with these and more players, I really hope that soon we can breathe more life into the German UX writing scene. And I also hope that we creators, we UX writers, can further push and foster advanced discussions in Germany. And yes, I do realize that, of course, as someone who is German but almost exclusively discusses UX writing in English, I'm also part of the problem. But creating this video right here, and especially the German version of this video, already sparked a tiny little flame in me, and I feel like I should talk about German UX writing a lot more because, of course, this matter is close to my heart. And with that, I think that we have found the perfect moment to end this video. How did you like it? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you are a non-native English-speaking UX writer, please feel free to share what makes UX writing special in your language, because I would love to learn more about that. Also, as always, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, where I post free tips and tricks about writing in tech and UX writing in particular. And apart from that, there is nothing left to say except keep on writing, enjoy the process, and I hope to see you sometime soon.